Hello, everyone. Welcome to our CA PPM in 30 Days webinar. We're glad that you could join us today. So first off, what we'd like to do are a couple of quick introductions. So I'm Amy Scar, the CA PPM Practice Manager here at WinMill Software. And today, Doug Kalkowski is going to be giving you a look at the way that we help organizations of all different sizes implement CA PPM in 30 days. And Doug's been working with CA PPM since 2007 and has been heavily involved in many of the 30-day implementations that we've been doing. So before we jump in, though, a quick housekeeping item. Throughout, please feel free to ask questions. On your screen, you should see a spot to type questions. And when you do, please go ahead and select the All Panelists option when you send them in. And feel free to send questions in any time, but we're going to wait until the end to jump into the responses. Okay, so briefly about WinMill. We've been implementing CA PPM for a long time. We were an original NICU partner and became a CA partner when they acquired Clarity, now called CA PPM. We've done hundreds of CA PPM projects, and we focus on partnering with our clients to ensure that each organization's unique needs are best served in the way that we implement CA PPM. So if you have any questions about us or this webinar, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're going to provide some contact information at the end of the webinar. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Doug.
Hey, thanks, Amy. So in today's webinar, we're going to have a brief overview of the capabilities of CA PPM and how it can help your organization. Then we will discuss the feasibility of a 30-day implementation and review some success stories. We'll then share some recommendations on how to prepare for a successful implementation and give an overview of the implementation process, and then finally a brief Q&A for any questions that you have. So why would an organization choose to implement CA PPM? This answer can be different depending on each organization's goals, but the primary goal we see is to improve productivity by working on the right investments at the right time. CA PPM gives you the tools you need to align your investments with your corporate goals so your investments yield the highest return. It provides you with a structured environment to create, manage, and optimize your enterprise portfolio and manage your resources. This slide illustrates some of the areas CA PPM can help your organization achieve optimal results. For example, the demand management module can be implemented to facilitate the idea intake process. The financial management module can bring visibility to how investments are performing, and the portfolio management module can help management decide on which investments to pursue and what to delay or cancel. These are just a few of the tools CA PPM offers, and the tools that your organization implements will depend on your objectives. CA PPM offers beneficial tools to all levels of an organization. For executives, CA PPM allows for better decision-making and strategic planning. By building portfolios that align investments to corporate goals, executives can make informed decisions and review progress towards these goals. Scenario planning allows leadership to apply what-if scenarios to aid in the decision-making process. Here are a few examples of some executive dashboards in CA PPM that allow for the tracking of investment performance in alignment to corporate goals. For managers, CA PPM helps facilitate the project management process and streamlines the communication of key project metrics. CA PPM offers a standardized approach to maintaining risks and issues, as well as status reporting. CA PPM also captures investment financial information that allows managers to track their project's performance to plan. Reports and portlets are available within CA PPM that can be used to review overall project health and other key metrics. For team members, CA PPM aids in collaboration through document sharing and project-level communication. CA PPM also offers the ability to report time spent on investment tasks, as well as communicate changes to work estimates through the time reporting module. CA PPM has something to offer all levels of the organization. You're probably thinking it sounds like a lot. Can it really be done in 30 days? The answer is yes. CA PPM can be implemented in 30 days for most organizations. For others, it may take longer depending on the size of the organization and the complexity of their customizations. But for companies looking to get started with a PPM solution, CA PPM can absolutely be implemented in 30 days. In the rest of this presentation, we're going to show you how it can be done. But first, a real-life success story from one of our clients that recently participated in a 30-day implementation. Our first success story is from a global logistics company. Prior to CA PPM, projects and resource demand was being tracked on multiple spreadsheets. In order to view their project pipeline, data had to be gathered from multiple sources and compiled manually. visibility into resource utilization was not possible, and the data was not reliable. Using our 30-day implementation process, this client implemented CA PPM with a pilot group of 50 users managing approximately 100 projects. They implemented resource management and project management modules to gain better visibility into their resource capacity and demand. They also implemented the portfolio management module so they could get a high-level view of their project pipeline and make decisions on when to execute projects and when to push projects out. After a couple months of using CA PPM, this client is planning on rolling out CA PPM to additional business units. What makes the 30-day implementation possible is WinMill's methodology, which was developed based on years of implementing CA PPM across countless industries. During the first week of your 30-day implementation, guided discovery sessions are conducted where we learn more about your organization and recommendations are made on how to best utilize CA PPM. It is during these sessions that clients learn more about what CA PPM can bring to their organization and how it can be customized to meet their unique needs. Speaking of customizations, WinMill's methodology is designed to be flexible. Not all organizations are the same, and neither are their CA PPM implementations. CA PPM's ability to be quickly customized allows us to tailor your implementation to meet the unique needs of your business. CA PPM also comes with pre-packaged accelerators that can be implemented if industry standard methodologies are required, like PMBOK. Our next success story is from the IT industry. Prior to implementing CA PPM, this client was maintaining multiple project management systems and methodologies across their organization. Data had to be extracted from various applications and manually compiled for reporting, which was time-consuming and prone to errors. Collaboration was difficult due to the disjointed systems and methodologies. Working together with WinMill and our 30-day implementation methodology, this client implemented CA PPM with 100 users across 3 business units. Their project management implementation was highly customized due to the unique needs of each business unit. During our discovery sessions, data elements were identified and CA PPM was configured to meet these requirements. They are currently looking to expand their use of CA PPM to include financial management. So we've seen that it can be done. Now we'll share some tips on how to prepare for a 30-day implementation. First, get organized. By this we mean to define your company structure. One of the primary building blocks in CA PPM is the Organizational Breakdown Structure, or OBS. This is essentially an org chart, and it is required to do any financial processing and is essential for generating reports. The OBS is used to group investments and resources. Defining your OBS is one of the first steps that must be completed when implementing CA PPM. Next, get connected. By this we mean identify decision makers, stakeholders, and key resources. Once these resources are identified, get commitments for their involvement. This is vital to the success of your implementation. During the first week of your implementation, discovery sessions are conducted and key decisions need to be made quickly. Waiting for decisions to be made because key resources could not attend discovery sessions can jeopardize the 30-day time frame, so getting commitments is key. Also, having key resources involved early in the process improves user adoption. And finally, get data. Identify the resources who will be using CA PPM and what work they will need to perform. This will help in establishing roles and security in CA PPM. It is also important to gather key data elements for these resources. For most implementations, resources are loaded into CA PPM with specific data elements from another system, like an HR application. Make sure you have access to this data or that resources who maintain these applications are readily available. In some cases, project information is also loaded into CA PPM from a legacy system. Making sure you have access to all this information is key to prevent delays. And be prepared to move fast. A 30-day implementation can be overwhelming, but it can be a huge success as long as you're committed to the effort and devote the time to the implementation. So why choose WinMill as your partner? There are several reasons, but we'd like to illustrate a few of our strengths. First, our strategic approach. At WinMill, we are primarily concerned with doing what is best for our clients from a strategic perspective. Rather than trying to provide a one-size-fits-all solution or simply focusing on the configuration aspect of an implementation, we look to solve the unique business goals for each organization. Second is thought leadership. WinMill stands apart due in large part to the staff we employ. Our architects, functional, and technical consultants all have deep knowledge of CA PPM, as well as a broad understanding of project management and portfolio management principles and best practices. Each of our consultants are CA PPM certified, and many of our staff are also PMP certified. Third, long-term partnerships. WinMill approaches each client as a partner. At the end of the engagement, WinMill will provide a recommended roadmap of future enhancements. WinMill can also provide ongoing functional, technical, and administrative support once the implementation has reached steady state. As the product evolves, WinMill is there at each step to assist in upgrades and business process modifications. And finally, technical support. A successful CA PPM implementation requires three things: a strategy with aligned processes, CA PPM configured to match, and adoption. Project managers and resources are the gatekeepers to data quality, so it's critical to give them the tools to succeed. We have helped with hundreds of implementations, and we know how critical training and support can be. We have deep experience creating and delivering custom CA PPM and business process training. So how does a CA PPM implementation work? There's typically 3 stages of a CA PPM implementation that we like to classify as crawl, walk, run. The 30-day implementation is the crawl stage. You get some quick wins by eliminating some major pain points and establishing processes. Users are being introduced to change, and management is getting visibility to data that was not available before. It is in this phase that you will begin to generate real return on investment. After your initial implementation, refinement begins. This is the walk phase, where you begin to refine your processes and increase adoption. And finally, the run phase. Here you work to optimize your implementation by closing process and reporting gaps. Before I discuss the detailed timeline, I'd like to discuss the roles and responsibilities of both WinMill and the client. For your CA PPM implementation, WinMill will be responsible for creating a project plan. This project plan is based on years of experience implementing CA PPM. We customize this plan to include the functionality that is critical to your organization. WinMill will also do requirements gathering and solution design. Your project is designed to include enough functionality to add real value, but not so much that it slows down the implementation. It is our goal to position your organization so that future enhancements can be readily implemented. We also provide a roadmap of future enhancements that will provide the best return on your investment. Once the design is approved, WinMill will be responsible for implementing the solution, system testing, and production support. The client will be responsible for actively participating in requirements gathering and design review. They are also responsible for UAT testing, end user training, and any change management requirements that their organization may have. WinMill also aids in managing the implementation. At the beginning of the project, a high-level project plan is created with major milestones and target dates for completion. This project plan is reviewed with the client and helps maintain the scope of the implementation. While WinMill's project plan contains all aspects of WinMill's involvement in the project, it is important that the client maintain a project plan that encompasses the entire scope of the implementation, which can include milestones that do not involve WinMill, like UAT testing and end-user training. During each week of the project, a status report is created by WinMill and reviewed with the client. It is here that we will discuss the progress of the project, milestone status, and any risks or issues that may have arose, as well as any mitigation plans. At the end of the project, a roadmap is developed to help guide the next phases of the implementation. This roadmap leverages WinMill's years of experience at helping clients get the highest return on their investment in CA PPM. Here's what a typical 30-day implementation consists of. Each week has a series of tasks that must be completed to remain on track. During week 1, joint architecture and design, or JAD sessions, are conducted on-site with the client. Here we will walk through the system and establish the data elements required based on the modules being used. By the end of week 1, OBS, resource, and project data should also be gathered by the client, so work can begin to load that information into the system. Templates for gathering data are provided by WinMill. The remaining weeks can be performed on-site or remotely. First, the design document is drafted and reviewed. The goal is to have the design approved during week 2 so that configuration can be completed by the end of week 2. During week 3, data will be loaded into the system and security groups will be established. And finally, unit testing will be completed by WinMill to ensure that all aspects of the design document are met. Week 4 is used for UAT and training on the administration of CA PPM. By this time, a system administrator should be identified by the client so knowledge transfer can take place. During this time, the administrator will learn the skills needed for the day-to-day operations of CA PPM. Testers will also be needed who are familiar with the design being implemented. UAT should not be confused with training. During UAT, it is important to verify that the correct data was loaded and that customizations were completed based on the approved design. At the end of week 4, once UAT is complete, everything is migrated to production. Week 5 is designated for user support. When CA PPM is first rolled out, questions will come up, and WinMill will be available to help you through them and ensure that your rollout is a success. We mentioned earlier that during week 4, we conduct a knowledge transfer session. The purpose of this session is to prepare a resource to maintain the application for day-to-day operations. This can include tasks like opening and closing time periods, processing financial transactions, creating resources, and more. This is not a full-time responsibility, but there are some administrative tasks that will need to be maintained going forward. Additional end-user training is also available from WinMill if formalized training is desired. These training options include internal business process training, instructor-led or web-based training from CA, or custom training on any aspect of your PPM process. WinMill has years of experience developing custom training around PPM implementations. At the end of your 30-day implementation, you will receive a final as-built document from WinMill detailing all the customizations made and any important decisions that were made along the way. To finish up, I'd like to share one last success story. This client comes from the retail industry. Prior to CA PPM, projects were managed using multiple systems. This presented a challenge when trying to view data for the entire organization. There was no single source of truth. Additionally, they were unable to integrate with other applications because it wasn't cost-effective to integrate into multiple systems. Using WinMill's methodology, this client rolled out CA PPM to 100 users managing approximately 100 projects. They are utilizing demand management to maintain the idea intake process and convert approved ideas into projects. They are also utilizing the resource and project management modules to maintain their capacity versus demand. They are currently planning for integrations with other systems, custom reporting, and workflows to facilitate the newly implemented processes and procedures. This is a quote from one of our clients after their implementation. WinMill software was able to provide best-in-class service, which enabled business and project managers to gain greater visibility into the depths of their projects using CA PPM. Using less than 200 hours of work, this solution was designed and delivered without interruption to our IT, marketing, and retail operations. So to review, we briefly discussed the capabilities of CA PPM and some of the benefits it can bring to your organization. We've covered some steps you can take to begin preparing your organization for a CA PPM implementation. We also discussed WinMill's 30-day implementation methodology and highlighted some real-world success stories. And finally, we discussed some of the training and support offerings that WinMill can provide to ensure that your CA PPM implementation provides the highest return on investment. At this time, we'd like to open up the webinar for any questions you may have regarding the 30-day CA PPM implementation.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, so there's still some time too. We have some questions, and there's time to also submit additional questions. So if you'd like to type any in, please go ahead and do that. And in the meantime, so a couple questions for you, Doug, here. One is 30 days isn't very much time. So what happens if we can't move fast enough to get it done in 30 days?
Sure. So typically what happens if an organization wants to take longer than 30 days, we can adjust the schedule by adding in some buffer weeks, or we can look at changing the schedule based on what fits their needs.
Okay, great. And let's see. So who from an organization would typically be needed in order to participate in those initial discovery sessions you were talking about?
Right, yeah. So the discovery sessions is the key time that most of the involvement is needed. And we typically want someone who's going to be the CA PPM owner. So usually there's an application owner that will be involved. Or if they have a formalized PMO, having a PMO lead there. The project sponsor is usually a good person to have involved. And then also resources from your finance department, finance managers, any resource managers that maybe can give some input onto the resource management process. And then sometimes it's good to have a PM join those sessions as well, just so we get the input of all the levels of the organization.
Great. And is it necessary for all of those people to be available for, multiple days of discovery, or is it, what's the scheduling look like for that?
It can depend. We typically send out a schedule of what sessions we're going to cover ahead of time. And so you can, if somebody's not available for the entire week, like so your finance manager, we make suggestions when we send the schedule as to the finance manager should be here for, the first half of day 1 and the second half of day 2, or however. We can send a schedule to give you an idea of who would be best to involve. But the key decision makers, like your PMO lead, they should probably be there for the majority of the discovery sessions.
Gotcha, great. Okay, let's see. And here's a question that I can actually answer. So we don't own Clarity. Can we purchase licenses from WinMill along with implementation services? And yes, actually, so we're a value-added reseller. So we can do both implementation services and we can provide licensing also. Let's see. And then it looks like we've got one more question here. So are there any major problems that you see on a frequent basis with a 30-day implementation?
The biggest problem we usually see is having stakeholders that aren't prepared. So not having samples of the reports that they use, or not fully understanding what all they want to implement. So the reason we included the different ideas on how to prepare is to kind of give you an idea of what information you'll need ahead of time. So the more you can gather, the more reports, the more data that you can gather ahead of time, the better chance of success you'll have with the discovery sessions.
Great, perfect. And you mentioned reports. So what kind of format, for example, would an organization need to bring their reports in?
We've seen reports in just about any format, from Excel spreadsheets to very informal to real formal reports that they get out of their HR application or their finance applications. But they can range from anywhere. It's really, the important part is the things that your let's say finance department needs to do their day-to-day business. The type of reports that are crucial to your day-to-day operations are the things that we need to see.
Great, perfect. Okay, well, those are the questions that we've got. If you have any questions later on or anything else occurs to you, contact information is provided on the slide here, so feel free to reach out to any or all of us with questions or comments. Happy to hear about that. And also, the recording for this webinar is going to be posted to our website, so here's some information about how to access that. Both the URL where it will be posted and navigation links on how to get there from our website. So thanks everybody today for joining us. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you again in another webinar.